To introduce a few of the tools that are specialty that we'll need. These are tubing benders to help us bend the tools, or bend the copper in a way that's going to fit our space. This is a digital torque wrench to make sure that the nuts are flared and tightened to the right amount. We have a wired cutter, stripper, and crimper. Copper cutting tool. This is a digital level or digital angle finder. Schrader core removal tools. The nitrogen reg. A vacuum pump with hoses. This is our micron gauge that we need to make sure that the vacuum pulls to the right amount. And a flaring kit to make sure our flares are perfect. Hey Ben.
Good day, sir.
Today.
Good to see you.
So we're installing your heat pump here. You've already prepped out the ground, the electrical. All we have to do is set up the piping, the indoor unit, outdoor unit, and get it running.
Awesome.
So, if we're ready to go, take us inside and let's see where we're installing things.
Come on inside.
Now that we know where we're going to be installing, we've pre-drilled some holes. Now we just need to get our unit leveled. To do that, there's a small hanger right here, which allows us to put this right where we need it. It should hang level, and if we need to, we can put a level on it to make sure that we have the perfect angle. Okay, so I'm using a digital angle finder. You can put it right on top there. I'll just make small adjustments until this says 0 degrees. Right there. That's the ticket. So at this point, we're going to put our other screws in to make sure this holds tight. And that'll give us proper drainage as we run our system in air conditioning. So we're going to put the head up here. This is going to be the exterior wall. It'll be really easy to go outside with it. And this is a nice open wall. We can't be too close to the ceiling. Can't be too close to the ground. I want to make sure we're not hitting into studs when we drill through the wall, or through any window frame or anything that's going to crack.
Sounds great. Thank you.
To drill the hole going out to the outside, we want to make sure that we're taking into account anything that might be in the walls that we could hit. So make sure you use a stud finder to make sure you're not going through studs or electrical. Also, you want to make sure on the back of your unit, all those lines will fit through without tweaking them, bending them, or damaging them in any way. Third thing to think about is your pitch. You want your angle to be a slight downward angle where you're drilling. That way the condensation can flow out of the unit and out of the house. Alright, so what we have here is the indoor head that we're going to be putting on the wall. We need these connections to go out that hole, but before we do that, we want to make sure we get our electrical hooked up and pass through the wall with it. That way we don't have to do it after the fact. Tip that over, take out the tape, open it up. Now we can get to the electrical section and pull any wires through that we need to right now. At the back of here we have our wiring connection, and this hole is going to go through into the wiring connections at the front. That's how we're going to pull our wire through and match it with these pipes. Right here we have our little bit of wire. We're going to put that into a box connector, just like that. And then when we feed these wires through, it'll be a secure connection that can't be pulled out. We have pulled our electrical through. We'll made our electrical connections. As you can see, we have labeled here 1, 2, 3, and ground. We're going to make that red, black, white, and green. Give it a quick test pull, make sure those connections are tight. Now that we're done the electrical hookups, we're going to start feeding this through to the outside. I've got Ben waiting for me out there, ready to start pulling this wire. And at the same time, we're going to gently bend this copper and this string tube out the same way. Now that we pass this through, we'll be able to slide it right through the wall without any issues. I'm going to start with this electrical wire. Now that we have pulled our electrical through and made our connections, you can see that they're labeled 1, 2, 3, and ground. And those colors are red, black, white, and green. You give those a couple test pulls to make sure that they're tight. And then with all the excess wire, we're going to pull that out the back. Make sure we don't have a big mess going on in here. The most important part to take out of this is to make sure that your wiring looks clean and holds tight. That's it. That's it. It's on. Alright, now that we're through the wall to the outside, I'm going to make sure that we don't have any damage on these pipes or this wire. We're going to start planning our route that we're going to take our fortress down to protect all this on the outside of the building. Ben has been so kind as to give us a backing to install all. So we're going to run fortress all the way down on this 2x4 backing. And that'll be the home that these pipes live in. I'm going to be installing this fortress on the outside of the house. I'm just going to put a wood screw in there. Now that that's in place, I can start measuring out for the coupling that's going to go in between. And chop this.
Cut them all at the same time.
So to cut your fortress or your line hide, you can use any tool that'll work. For the most part, you use a chop saw, a cut-off saw, tin snips, or a good knife. This is liquid tight. This is going to keep the rain out of the power system. And this wire is going to be running from the disconnect switch into the outdoor unit. To start that, we're going to slip that cap over top of the liquid tight there. And this will be inserted into the liquid tight. Get it nice and tight. Make sure you cover all the gray conduit. If you need to, you may have to shave a little bit of that off to clean it up. Once that's on top of there, screw this on nice and tight. That makes a watertight connection so no rain gets into the electrical. Now that we're ready to put our pipes together, we just want to make one last check. When we take these caps off, there should be a little bit of nitrogen left in there. That pressure sound you're hearing is nitrogen escaping from the indoor coil. That means that there's no holes in the coil and no holes in any of the piping. It's really important that you hear that, because if you don't, it means there's a leak and this ain't gonna work. So now I've hand tightened these nuts on, we're going to make sure that we torque them to the right spec. To check that, we're going to grab our installation manual and check what it tells us to put these to. For the 1/4 inch line, it says 18 to 20 Newton meters, and on the 3/8 line it says 32 to 39 Newton meters. This digital torque wrench will allow me to set it up and will let me know exactly when I hit that point. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these nuts on, always making sure that I use a backup wrench with a flare nut wrench on the other side, so don't twist the line at all. When I start getting close to the right foot-pound of torque, this digital torque wrench will let me know. So that's pretty close. When it goes to a solid beep, that's when I've hit exactly where I've set it to. That's it. Alright, now that we're ready to start running our line in the line set, there's just one more thing that I made sure to check first, and that's where the lines go into the outdoor unit. Now the 1/4 inch line, the discharge line, that is going back into the unit on top, and the 3/8 line, the vapor line, is coming back in on the bottom. In the same way, I want to make sure that my 1/4 inch line comes out of my line set on top to make sure I don't have to twist it at the end. At this point, I'm ready to start installing this in the fortress. So I'm just going to gently position these pipes, fit in where it needs to go, taking care not to let it kink or bend inappropriately. So, now that we've put our unit in place, we kept it up on risers to keep it off the ground. That's going to help with any condensation that occurs when it's running in heating mode. To make sure that ice doesn't build up in there and water drains away, there's a drain plug that's installed and a drain line we can run as well. Now we can measure out for where our piping is going to go, where our electrical is going to go, and make sure that we don't have too much length. So on that, I'm going to bend this copper around gently to make it fit right behind the unit. All the while making sure that our lines are kept as straight as possible. In the electrical disconnect, we want to make sure that all of our wiring is done correctly, and always double check on everyone else's work just while you're there. If we look really closely at these guys, we have a title up here, line and line. That means that the outsides, there and there, are going to be your loads. Double check the electrician's work and make sure yours is just as clean as his. So now that I've measured off how much I need, I'm just going to cut this copper off. Cut it nice and clean, so if you have excess you can use it on the next job. And once these are cut, I'm going to ream them, flare them, and fit them onto the unit. Now that we've cut our copper back and reamed it out, before we start the flaring process, I'm actually going to cut back another few inches of this insulation. And the reason we're doing this is to make sure that we have enough room to get our flare nuts on, the tools on, and then we can re-insulate a little bit easier to put this whole system together. Make a habit of always putting your nuts on before you put any of your flaring kits in. Because the silliest mistake you're going to make half the time is making a flare and then realizing you got no flare nut on there. So I put that nut on, now I can throw that over top and get ready to make my flare. On these connections I'm going to put a little bit of nylog just on the outside threads. We're not going to put any nylog in the system or on the interior threads because we don't actually want it getting in the system. Just a drip on the outside, and that just helps the flare roll over the male end of the fitting.
just that easy. Now that we've got these excess little pieces of insulation that we cut off earlier, just going to cut a strip down the middle, slide it over top, and then push our insulation in to make sure that we're fully insulated as much as we can go. Once we get to about there, I'm going to take our tape again, just tape these seams to make sure that no condensation builds up underneath that insulation. On the ends of these are fork connectors. They have a nice crimp on the end. With these, we're going to match them up the same that we did the indoor. Red to 1, black to 2, and white to 3. Now that they fit under there real nice, we'll tighten on these set screws on the terminal strip. That makes a good solid connection. Make sure you're using some sort of crimp connectors for these wires, because this is the communication with the indoor and outdoor unit. Communication doesn't go well through wire without a crimp connection. Alright, now that we've made our pressure test, it has held pressure, we're going to start our evacuation. So I'm going to close my valve off, start safely bleeding out any excess pressure that's left in here. Nitrogen tank is off. I'm going to let that go for now, wait until that runs out, and then take care of all the rest of the pressure left in our system. Now we've been running our vacuum for a few minutes. We're going to make sure that we've dropped below 500 micron. This is sitting 340, so that's plenty. Just to make sure that we are actually holding that vacuum, we're going to shut this valve off. That'll isolate our system. Turn our vacuum pump off so we're not working it for no reason. And make sure that our vacuum stays lower than 1000 micron after 10 minutes. So we've held under 1000 micron at about 15 minutes. So we're definitely good to start this guy up. What we're going to do is take off this fitting here. I'm going to shut off my valve to the vacuum gauge. Get rid of that one. I'm going to put our Schrader back in to service. Now, a quick trick on this, because we're introducing a tiny bit of air with our Schrader that we don't really want to see. The more air you can keep out of your system, the better. I'm going to open it up a very, very tiny amount and close it immediately. That'll put a small amount of pressure in my system. At that point, I can vent off, get rid of all the air, and have no air in my system at all. That was it. Open and closed. I haven't tightened this on yet. When I open this valve, I'm going to release a bit of pressure. That gets rid of any air that's left in here. I can insert my Schrader back into position, tighten it up. Not only have we not lost any refrigerant, we also haven't introduced any air into our system. That's going to make it run a lot longer and a lot healthier. Now that the wiring is complete, double check, make sure all our lines are going in the right place. Red to 1, black to 2, white to 3. We've got line 1 and line 2 right from our power source, and our grounds are all hooked up. Made sure to put on our bottom clip. That keeps them tight. Did a quick pull test to make sure it all holds together. Now that we've got everything finished on the outside and the inside, last step is to turn it on, make sure it works. So for this test, the first thing we want to do is set it up to heat mode. Turn that temperature way, way up, and make sure that it actually has about 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit temperature difference from the incoming air to the outgoing air. It does need 5 or so minutes to warm up, so let's give it that time and check back on it in a minute. Now that we've finished our install, this is up and running and blowing real hot air. Make sure your customer knows how to use the heat pump. Make sure they understand the remote. And who would you call in case of an emergency? I'm going to set this over to automatic. And at 73 degrees, nice comfortable room temperature. And that'll be it for the job today.
Thank you, sir.